You thought silence would break them, didn't you? You thought if you just stopped reaching out, if you disappeared without warning, the universe would make them panic. You imagined them scrolling through your old messages at midnight, wondering where you went. You believed that one day their pride would crumble and they'd finally say those words you've been dying to hear. I miss you. But here's the truth, my friends. Sometimes silence doesn't break them. Sometimes it builds them. In the beginning, the silence feels like power. It feels like a calm rebellion. You stop chasing, stop begging, stop proving your worth. And for a while, that feels like control. You walk around with a quiet pride, like a samurai who just sheathed their sword, knowing they could strike, but chose peace instead. And it's true. At first, they feel your absence like a cold wind. Every place that once held your energy now feels hollow to them. Your laughter echoes in their memory like a song they can't stop humming. They wonder why it feels so different without you. That's the first stage. Your absence becomes the loudest sound in their life. But here's where it gets tricky. Time doesn't stand still for anyone, folks. The human mind is built to adapt. And after a while, that silence you created, the same silence that once made them restless, begins to feel normal. They start adjusting, reshaping their days, finding new distractions. The same way you get used to the darkness after the lights go out, they start seeing just fine without you. It's not because they don't care. It's because the mind hates discomfort, and eventually it finds a way to live without the noise. See, my friends, no contact is powerful, but only when you're using it for the right reason. If you're doing it to make them chase, it's just manipulation dressed as healing. But if you're doing it to find yourself again, that's transformation. There's a big difference between silence that comes from strength and silence that comes from fear. The first builds your peace, the second breaks it. The universe doesn't reward those who wait with desperation. It rewards those who evolve in silence. Think of it like a campfire. If you walk away from it for too long, the flames don't stay alive just because you miss the warmth. They fade. The spark dies unless you feed it with presence, purpose, and energy. The same goes for connection. If your silence turns into distance without growth, the bond weakens on both sides. You start to lose your power too. And that's when no contact begins working against you. Not because you made a mistake, but because you stopped growing in the gap. But let me tell you something beautiful. The moment you stop waiting, they feel it. The moment you stop wondering if they're thinking about you, that's when the shift begins. Your peace, your glow, your quiet confidence. It reaches them in ways no message ever could. You stop being a memory they control and become an energy they can't forget. That's real power. So if you're sitting there wondering if they still think about you, if they still miss you, take a breath. Don't chase closure. Don't chase validation. Chase peace. Because once you master that calm, they always return to the one who mastered silence without losing their soul. You're not losing them, folks. You're rediscovering yourself. Now listen, my friends. Don't just nod your head and scroll away like nothing hit you. I want this truth to land in your bones. Too many people hear words like these and think, yeah, that sounds deep. Then go right back to begging for energy that's already walked away. Don't do that to yourself. If you've made it this far, if something in you knows this message was meant for you tonight, then claim it. Make it yours. Type it in the comments so it locks into your mind like a promise. My silence is my strength. Not just words, a vow. Every time your fingers type it, you're training your brain to remember who you are. You're telling the universe, I no longer chase chaos. I choose peace. Write it like you mean it, folks. This isn't for them, it's for you. It's a declaration that you're done fighting for attention that should have been freely given. And if this message lit something inside you, even a small spark, don't keep it to yourself. hit that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. We're building a mindset here, one that no heartbreak can break again. You're stepping into your calm era, where your power doesn't come from proving anything. It comes from mastering your silence. So say it, type it, own it. My silence is my strength. Let the world know you've entered the stage where peace is louder than any apology. Number 1. At first, your absence is loud. You're everywhere. At first, your absence doesn't feel like silence. It feels like thunder. It shakes them, confuses them, and keeps echoing in places they thought were safe from you. Every time they open their phone, they hesitate for half a second, expecting your name to light up the screen. When it doesn't, a strange heaviness creeps in. That's the thing, my friends. When you remove yourself from someone's life after giving them so much of your energy, your presence doesn't vanish overnight. It lingers like perfume on a jacket they can't bring themselves to wash. It's in the rhythm of their mornings, in the quiet space before they fall asleep. You've become a ghost that doesn't haunt them with fear, but with memory. You see, in psychology, there's something called the Zeigarnik effect. It says that our minds remember unfinished stories far more vividly than the ones that ended neatly. When someone walks away with words unspoken, emotions unresolved, or love unreturned, the brain refuses to close the file. It keeps replaying the scenes, searching for the missing piece. That's what's happening to them now. They tell their friends they're fine, but when night falls and the noise fades, their mind drifts right back to you. It's not obsession, it's mental, unfinished business. You were their story that ended mid-sentence, and now every fiber of their being wants to know how it was supposed to finish. In the early days of no contact, your absence has weight. It presses down on them like gravity. They still hear your laugh when someone else jokes. They still feel that familiar warmth when a song you loved starts playing somewhere in public. It's like walking through a museum of old memories. Every exhibit is about you, and they can't find the exit. The human mind doesn't handle detachment well, especially when it wasn't their idea. Even if they were the one who walked away, their subconscious didn't sign that agreement. That's why no matter how confident they acted, they still look back. Because somewhere deep down, a part of them is still trying to finish the emotional sentence you left hanging. They might distract themselves. New hobbies, new people, long nights out. But here's the truth. Distractions are just noise that keeps them from hearing the silence you left behind. The more they try to drown it out, the louder it becomes. It's like standing in a room with a flickering light. You can ignore it for a while, but eventually it demands your attention. They start wondering why your absence feels heavier than your presence ever did. That's when they begin realizing it wasn't the conversations they miss. It's the connection, the energy, the way you made the world feel slightly more alive. And here's what most people don't realize. When you pull away with calmness, not anger, not games, but genuine stillness, it creates psychological tension in the other person. They expect reaction. They expect you to chase. But when you don't, their mind scrambles to fill in the blanks. Why aren't they reaching out? Did they stop caring? Were they pretending the whole time? Those questions become the hooks that keep you in their thoughts. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist not only persists, but grows in size." The more they try to resist thinking about you, the more space you take up inside their head. You've become a mirror for their own emotions. Every reflection shows them something they don't want to face. Sometimes they even convince themselves they're over you. They'll tell their friends they've moved on, that it was all for the best. But then, one small thing, a smell, a sound, a date on the calendar, cracks the illusion. Suddenly all those buried emotions rise like smoke through a chimney. They realize it's not that they forgot you, it's that they never really processed you. Because how do you process something that ended in silence? How do you let go of someone who vanished like a page torn from the middle of a story? You can't. The mind keeps turning back, waiting for the missing words. This is why, in the early phase of no contact, you hold all the invisible power. You're not chasing, not explaining, not begging to be understood. You're letting the silence do the speaking, and silence, when used correctly, is the loudest language on earth. It tells them, I don't need to prove my worth to you anymore. It whispers, I loved you, but I love my peace more. And that calm energy, that's what shakes them to the core. Because deep down, everyone fears being forgotten by the one who once cared the most. But remember, my friends, this phase is not about revenge. It's not about making them suffer. It's about reclaiming your energy and teaching your spirit to be okay with distance. When you stop trying to be understood, you start being respected. When you stop explaining, they start questioning themselves. The silence becomes a mirror reflecting everything they ignored when they had your presence freely. You might ask, why does it have to be so hard? Why can't they just realize my value without all this distance? The truth is, people rarely see clearly while they're standing in the light. It's only when it's taken away that they realize how much warmth it gave. Your absence isn't punishment, it's perspective. It's the space that allows them to see what they lost when they stopped valuing your energy. So don't doubt the process just because it's slow. The silence is doing its work quietly. While they're trying to convince themselves they're fine, their subconscious keeps whispering your name. Every time they pass a place you've been, every time they catch themselves checking their phone, that's the Zeigarnik effect keeping you alive in their mind. You became their unfinished chapter, and humans are wired to finish what's incomplete. So stay calm, stay silent. Don't break your focus for temporary emotions. Remember, you are not a sentence waiting to be finished. You are the whole story they didn't have the patience to read. Let them wonder, let them remember, let them miss the peace they took for granted, and when the time comes, they'll circle back, not because you chased, but because your energy never needed to. Now, write this in the comments so it embeds deep into your mind. My absence speaks louder than words. Say it, type it, and let it remind you that real power doesn't shout, it stands still. Number 2. Then they start adjusting. Silence turns into their comfort. Then comes the shift, my friends. The moment that silence, which once felt like a storm in their mind, starts turning into something else. At first, your absence was noise. It was chaos, confusion, the constant what if. But as the days turn into weeks, something begins to change. The human mind, as powerful as it is fragile, has one survival instinct that never fails: adaptation. Even the sharpest pain dulls when repeated. Even the loudest echo fades when there's no new sound to follow it. That's how the mind protects itself, and that's how they begin to adjust to life without you. You see, when you first pulled back, their emotions were still tied to your energy. Every morning, they'd check their phone out of habit. Every place they went reminded them of the time you spent there. You were woven into their daily rhythm, but the mind is clever. It doesn't like emotional discomfort, so slowly it begins to replace. Replace your name with new distractions. Replace your conversations with new routines. Replace your presence with comfort in your absence. It's like stepping into cold water. Painful at first, shocking to the body, but stay in it long enough and the temperature starts to feel normal. That's what's happening now. This is where most people panic. They think, wait, are they forgetting me? They scroll through old messages, feeling a wave of fear, the kind that says, what if they stop missing me? But here's the truth. Yes, they are adjusting, and it's both natural and dangerous. Natural, because the human brain must find balance again. Dangerous, because if your silence stretches too long without emotional gravity, Without growth or presence in your energy, you risk fading from their radar completely. Carl Jung once said, "What you do not make conscious controls you." The same applies here. If your silence becomes mindless, if it's done out of pride instead of purpose, it starts working against you. No contact isn't meant to be a waiting room for their apology. It's meant to be a rebuilding phase for your soul. But many people mistake stillness for strategy. They sit in silence, counting the days, replaying the same pain, thinking it'll somehow pull the other person back through invisible strings. But energy doesn't work that way. Stillness without self-growth doesn't create attraction. It creates distance. Let me paint it this way. Imagine you leave a beautiful house unattended. At first, it still smells like home. The warmth lingers. But over time, dust starts settling, the air grows stale, and the walls lose their glow. That's what happens when silence is left unattended. It becomes stale energy. And stale energy doesn't attract, it repels. The person who once missed you begins to fill that emotional space with something new. New habits, new people, new peace. Your absence stops being chaos and becomes calm. And when calm replaces chaos, missing turns into acceptance. This is the turning point, folks. It's where your mindset decides whether you win or lose. Because while they're adapting, you should be evolving. If you sit still, you blend into their past. But if you grow, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, they feel that shift. The universe is subtle but powerful. It carries your progress like a signal. When your silence starts vibrating with peace instead of pain, they feel it, even from miles away. That's when curiosity replaces comfort again, but you have to earn that phase. It doesn't come from waiting, it comes from rising. So don't use this phase to obsess over what they're thinking. Use it to become someone unforgettable, not because of what you gave them, but because of who you became after they left. When they finally adjust to your silence, shock them with your evolution. Let them look back and realize that while they were adapting to lose you, you were adapting to outgrow them. Now, write this in the comments so it sinks into your spirit. I evolve in silence. Say it like a vow. Because silence alone won't save you, but growth in silence will make you unstoppable. Number 3. The mind needs closure, and it'll create one without you. The mind hates open doors. It hates unfinished stories, unanswered questions, and loose emotional threads. That's why, my friends, when silence drags on too long, their brain starts doing what it does best. It begins rewriting the story to make sense of what happened. Because as human beings, we crave closure the same way we crave air. It's not peace we want first, it's explanation. And when none comes, the mind invents one. At first, they might replay every moment with you like a movie stuck on repeat. The laughs, the texts, the tension before the fall, all of it. But after a while, something inside them starts whispering, maybe it wasn't that deep. Maybe they weren't the one. It's not truth, it's survival. The brain cannot live in confusion forever. When it doesn't get answers, it starts building them from ego, from fear, from fragments of memory that make them feel less guilty. That's where self-justification begins. It's a defense mechanism as old as humanity itself. Imagine a painter whose canvas got ruined halfway through the masterpiece. They can't fix it, so they call it abstract art. That's what the human ego does when relationships fall apart. It reframes the pain to protect pride. They'll tell themselves they were too intense, or I needed space, or it wasn't real love anyway. And the longer the silence, the stronger that narrative becomes. Not because they truly believe it, but because they need to. Cognitive dissonance, the tension between what they feel and what they tell themselves, pushes them to rewrite the story until it stops hurting. They might scroll past your photo and feel that sting in their chest, but immediately the mind jumps in. See, you're better without them. That's not confidence, it's a psychological patch. The heart knows what it lost, but the mind can't afford to admit it, so it builds walls made of excuses. It starts erasing the details that made you special, replacing them with exaggerated flaws, imagined faults, little lies that make walking away seem noble. This is how they protect themselves from realizing they abandoned something meaningful. And here's the paradox. While they're rewriting the story to ease their discomfort, they're also keeping you alive in their mental space. Every justification is a conversation with your absence. Every "they weren't right for me" is really just a whisper of "I still feel something." Carl Jung once said, "People don't have ideas. Ideas have people." Once they attach a story to your silence, that story owns them. It drives their emotions, dictates their reactions, and keeps your shadow alive in their mind longer than they'll ever admit. But there's a danger here, folks. The longer you stay silent, the more time their mind has to finish the story without your truth in it. They start convincing themselves they were right to leave. They remember the arguments but forget the peace. They recall your flaws in detail but blur out the kindness. It's not manipulation, it's emotional survival. The ego will burn every bridge just to avoid feeling weak. That's why your power lies not just in silence, but in who you become while they're rewriting their story. Because one day, they'll circle back out of curiosity. And when they do, the truth will hit them like a mirror. They'll see that the person they tried to forget has evolved into someone they can't stop thinking about. That's when their fake closure collapses under its own weight. They'll realize they didn't move on. They just built illusions to cope. You see, closure isn't something you wait for, it's something you create. And sometimes the best closure isn't a conversation, it's transformation. The universe will let them rewrite the story for a while, but when your glow reaches them again, it'll rewrite itself. They'll see the piece they couldn't handle before, and that's when regret blooms in silence. So if you're in that stage where they seem fine, where they've convinced the world and themselves that they're better off, don't panic. Don't break your silence to remind them of your worth. Just keep growing. Because no lie can survive in the presence of undeniable truth, and your evolution will expose the truth louder than any words could. Now, write this in the comments to seal it into your mind. My truth needs no closure. Say it like you mean it, because when you stop chasing explanations, you become the closure. Number 4. When pride replaces pain, that's when you lose power. There comes a moment, my friends, when the storm inside them quiets down, but not because they've healed. It's because pride has taken the wheel. At first, your absence cut deep. It bruised their ego, left them pacing through memories they couldn't escape. But human pride is a stubborn thing. It refuses to stay in pain for long. So instead of feeling it, they start reframing it. They begin telling themselves stories that make them feel strong again. I'm over them. They didn't deserve me. I made the right choice. Those phrases aren't peace, they're armor. When pain lingers too long, the ego builds defenses. It can't stand the idea of losing control, so it finds comfort in rewriting the past. You see, when no contact stretches beyond the breaking point, it stops being a mirror and becomes a wall. At first, the silence makes them question themselves, but as time drags on, they begin to justify everything. They have to. The brain can't keep holding on to guilt and loss forever. It starts rewriting history to survive. That's when pride sneaks in like a quiet thief, turning hurt into hardness. It's fascinating, really. The same person who once missed you deeply now acts like they've never cared. They'll post things to prove they're happy, they'll go out of their way to look unbothered. But those displays of strength are hollow victories. They're trying to convince themselves they're fine, not you. Because to admit they still feel something would mean admitting they made a mistake. And the human ego would rather fake indifference than face regret. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's exactly what happens here. Their ego buries the pain so deep that they begin to believe their own act. But beneath the pride still lies a quiet ache. Every "I'm over them" carries a silent "I wish I didn't have to be." It's not healing, it's emotional denial. Pride doesn't fix the wound, it just hides it under new skin. But here's where you need to be careful, folks. This is the phase where silence, if misused, can backfire. When your absence drags on with no evolution, they start building defenses against you. The person who once missed you now convinces themselves you were toxic, dramatic, or selfish. They do this to protect their self-image. They have to paint you as the villain because accepting that they lost someone genuine would shatter the illusion of control they're clinging to. The mind hates being the reason for its own pain, so it creates a narrative where you're the cause and they're the survivor. That's how power shifts. What once made them chase closure now makes them defend their distance. Instead of wondering where you went, they start rationalizing why they had to let you go. Your silence, which once held mystery, begins to feel like rejection. And rejection activates pride like fire meeting gasoline. They'll do anything to prove they don't need you, even if it means lying to themselves every night. But don't mistake their pride for peace. True peace is quiet. Pride is loud. It performs. It seeks validation, applause, attention. It posts, brags, and forces laughter in the name of moving on. That's not strength. It's survival. Because deep down, pride is nothing but pain wearing armor. And armor can protect, but it also isolates. The same walls they built to keep you out will start keeping love out too. This is where your calm matters most. Don't break your silence out of fear that they've forgotten you. Don't chase what's pretending to be fine, because while they're protecting their ego, you're protecting your peace. And here's the truth. Ego burns fast, but peace endures. Over time, their pride will exhaust itself. The act becomes too heavy to carry, and that's when the cracks start showing. They'll look around one day and realize that in trying so hard to prove they didn't need you, they built a world that feels empty without you. So don't let their pride trick you into reacting. Stay steady, stay centered, stay grounded in silence with purpose. Because the one who stays calm in chaos always wins in the end. Pride may shout now, but truth always whispers last, and when it does, they'll hear it loud and clear. Now write this in the comments so it anchors deep inside you. Their pride can't touch my peace. Let that be your armor. Let it remind you that silence backed by self-worth is unshakable. Number 5. The universe loves balance, so it tests both sides. The universe has a way of balancing things, my friends. It never lets one side carry all the lessons. While they're out there trying to detach, you're being tested too. That silence you created. It isn't just a wall keeping them out, it's a mirror showing you who you really are without them. This is the part most people don't talk about. Everyone wants to believe that no contact is a trick to make the other person chase. But the truth is far deeper. No contact is not a weapon, it's a mirror, and that mirror doesn't lie. When the noise stops and the messages go quiet, what's left is you, your thoughts, your emotions, your patterns. This is where your real strength gets measured. Are you waiting with resentment, counting the days, watching their social media, wondering who they're talking to? Or are you evolving, rebuilding yourself piece by piece, using silence as your training ground? Because if you're just waiting, you haven't healed. You've only paused your pain. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate." The universe uses silence to bring the unconscious to the surface. It forces you to face the loneliness you've been hiding behind attention. It makes you see whether your love came from connection or from fear of being forgotten. It's not punishing you, it's refining you. Because when someone walks away, the void they leave behind reveals the parts of yourself you never nurtured. That's balance. And here's the twist. While you're being tested, they are too. They might act unbothered, living their best life, but the universe doesn't let anyone skip lessons. If they left without gratitude, they'll meet people who mirror that same carelessness. If they took your kindness for granted, they'll feel what it's like to be invisible. That's not revenge. That's energy returning home. You don't have to wish them pain. The universe already handles correction better than your anger ever could. But the real test isn't about them. It's about you. What do you do with this silence? Some people fill it with bitterness, whispering to themselves, "They'll regret losing me." Others fill it with growth, saying, "I'm going to become someone I'm proud of." One of those paths leads to obsession, the other to peace. Remember this, folks, you can't heal in the same energy that hurt you. If you spend your no-contact phase obsessing over whether they miss you, you're still tied to their energy. But when you start improving your body, your mind, your purpose, something begins to shift in the unseen. Energy is contagious, even from afar. When you evolve, they feel it. They don't know why, but they sense that the grip they once had on you is slipping. Your name starts to hit them differently. They feel uneasy, curious, drawn back in by something they can't explain. That's not coincidence. That's energetic balance. The universe rewards the one who grows, not the one who waits. So don't sit there counting days like a prisoner of your own silence. Use every day to rise. The balance of life ensures that when your energy shifts upward, their emotions will start pulling them downward toward reflection. And when that balance completes its cycle, they'll look for your presence again, not because you forced it, but because they feel the void that your evolution created. That's the law of return. You see, my friends, the universe never forgets fairness. If your heart was pure and your intentions real, you will always rise higher than the ones who played with your peace. That's balance. You don't have to chase it. It unfolds naturally, quietly, inevitably. Now take a breath and write this in the comments to remind your soul. I rise in silence. Because real power doesn't scream, it ascends. Number 6. They start wondering, did you forget them? Then one day, something shifts. The same silence that once comforted them now starts to itch. It's no longer the peaceful kind of quiet. It's the uneasy kind. They start to feel that familiar tug of curiosity. That's the moment your energy changes, my friends. The moment your silence stops coming from pain and starts coming from peace, the whole dynamic flips. You're no longer the one waiting. You're no longer trying to be understood. You've evolved into someone who doesn't chase clarity. You create it within yourself. And that shift, they feel it, even if you never say a word. At first, they were certain you'd come back. They thought your silence was temporary, a phase, a strategy, maybe even a tantrum. But when weeks turn into months and your energy stays calm, they start to wonder, did they forget me? That question eats at them. Not because they miss the attention, but because deep down, they never believed you could truly move on. They underestimated your strength, and that realization messes with their mind. You see, psychology has a name for this, reactance theory. It's the idea that people crave what they can't control. When they thought they had your attention, they were careless. But the moment they sense they've lost access to your emotions, the game changes. The mind begins to crave what it can no longer influence. They start checking your page, watching your stories, maybe even asking mutual friends subtle questions. Have you seen them lately? Do they seem different? They're not looking for information. They're looking for reassurance. They want to know they still matter. And when that reassurance doesn't come, curiosity turns into longing. It's like trying to remember the melody of a song you used to love but can't quite hum anymore. You remember the feeling, but not the details. That's how they start thinking of you. The memories blur, but the emotion stays. They'll replay your last words, your last look, wondering if they missed a sign that you were really done. It's not your silence that drives them crazy. It's the meaning behind it. Because now, it doesn't feel like avoidance. It feels like power. And here's what's fascinating. Your growth speaks louder than any message ever could. The photos of you smiling without faking it, the calmness in your eyes, the way you carry yourself. All of it becomes silent proof that you've outgrown the old story. They sense that you've stepped into a new version of yourself, one that doesn't need closure, validation, or reaction. And that's when they panic, because control was their comfort, and you've taken that away without even trying. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." That's the trap they fall into. The more they try not to think about you, the more their thoughts circle back. The more they try to appear indifferent, the more the emptiness inside grows. Your detachment becomes magnetic because it's not forced, it's effortless. They start wondering what or who helped you move on. They picture you in new places with new energy, maybe even new people. And that thought burns their ego because it confirms something they never wanted to admit. You were never dependent on them. That's the irony of emotional power. When you needed them, they were calm. When you stopped needing them, they lost their calm. That's how energy works. It follows confidence. When your silence comes from strength, it pulls. When it comes from pain, it pushes. And right now, you've entered the pull phase. You're no longer running toward them. They're walking in circles trying to find you. So, my friends, stay grounded. Don't break your silence to prove you've moved on. Let your calm speak for you. They'll feel it in every unanswered text, every quiet night, every reminder that you're no longer orbiting around them. That's how you win without playing. Now take a breath and write this in the comments to seal this mindset. My calm makes them wonder, because it does. Your peace is the loudest mystery they've ever faced. Number 7. They spy, stalk, and strategize, but stay silent. Now the silence starts working in reverse, my friends. The tables flip. The one who once enjoyed watching you chase them is now the one sneaking glances in the dark. They spy, they stalk, they strategize, but they stay silent. Because admitting they care would mean admitting defeat. They've built an image of being in control, and now they're trapped inside it. Their curiosity grows like a fire they can't put out. It starts as a harmless thought. I wonder how they're doing. But that single spark turns into nightly scrolling, quiet checks, and deep dives through your digital world. They check your profile just to see what's new. They notice a new post, a new look, a new confidence. Their mind starts racing. Who took that picture? Why do they look so calm? The silence that once gave them comfort now feels like a locked door. Every update you post becomes a puzzle piece they can't stop rearranging. They'll ask mutual friends casual questions, pretending it's nothing. Oh, I haven't heard from them lately. How are they? But deep down, they're fishing for clues. Because when they lost access to your attention, they also lost access to their sense of control. That's when ego stops being their ally and becomes their prison. Their pride won't let them reach out first, even though the silence is eating them alive. They tell themselves, "I'm not going to message them. I'm better than that." But the more they resist, the stronger the pull becomes. It's emotional dissonance at its finest, the battle between what they feel and what they tell themselves they should feel. The heart misses you, the mind denies it. The result? Obsession. It's like trying not to scratch an itch. The more they fight the urge, the more unbearable it gets. They'll replay your last words in their head, trying to find meaning in things that were never mysterious before. That's how the mind behaves when it's conflicted. It starts searching for patterns, signs, reasons, and every attempt to rationalize just tightens the knot. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." That truth stings them now. They said they were done, that they didn't care, but their actions betray them. They're still watching, still wondering, still reacting emotionally to your calm. Your silence has become their mirror. It shows them how out of control they really are. And that realization hurts their ego more than any words could. You see, folks, curiosity is dangerous when pride gets involved, because they can't ask, can't explain, can't admit. So they become spectators in your story, watching from afar as you grow, glow, and move with quiet confidence. Every picture, every laugh, every subtle change chips away at their certainty. What was once control now feels like punishment. They're realizing that silence isn't weakness, it's strength, and your silence has become their obsession. Their mind starts whispering, "Why are they so calm? Who gave them that peace?" They'll try to convince themselves it's all an act. But the truth is, energy doesn't lie. They can sense that you've detached. And detachment, real detachment, is powerful. It makes you untouchable. The more at peace you become, the more chaotic they feel. That's when emotional dissonance turns missing you into obsession. Because now, it's not just about wanting you, it's about needing to understand how you stopped needing them. They won't admit it, but they're haunted by your silence. They see you everywhere, in people, in places, in songs. They feel the weight of what they lost without ever saying your name. And that's the irony of this stage. They could end their suffering with one honest message, but their ego keeps the door locked. So they stalk from behind the curtains while you keep walking forward, free. Now, my friends, take a breath and anchor this truth in your heart. My silence exposes their truth. Write it in the comments so it lives inside you, because that's exactly what's happening. Their obsession is just the echo of your calm. Number 8. And then, when you've moved on, that's when they return. And then it happens, my friends, the moment you stop waiting, the moment you truly let go. Not the kind of letting go where you secretly hope they'll chase you, but the kind where your peace finally feels better than their presence ever did. That's when everything flips. That's when the silence that once belonged to them starts working for you again. Because now, it's no longer about revenge or control. It's about alignment. Your energy has shifted from need to neutrality, and they can feel it like a temperature drop in the air. See, there's a strange power in genuine indifference. The same person who once felt your desperation now senses your detachment, and it unsettles them. They don't know how to process the version of you who doesn't reach out, doesn't react, doesn't wait. For the first time, they realize they're no longer living rent-free in your mind. You've evicted them quietly, without a speech, without a scene, and that silence becomes deafening. At first, they'll try to ignore the pull. They'll tell themselves you're just busy, that you'll come around eventually. But weeks pass, and your energy doesn't crack. The calm you once pretended to have is now real. You smile without faking it. You post without intention. You live without permission. And the universe, being what it is, mirrors that peace back to you in unexpected ways, new opportunities, new people, new self-respect. That's when your absence starts haunting them for real. They feel it in quiet moments, in the car, in bed, during their morning routine. The mind starts whispering what the ego tried to bury. You lost someone who actually cared. And that truth cuts deeper than rejection ever could. Because when you were there, they took your energy for granted. But now, they'd give anything just to feel it again, even for a second. That's how powerful detachment is. It turns your memory into gold the moment you stop offering it freely. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." And this is where that wisdom hits hardest. The more they try to resist missing you, the more it consumes them. They start dreaming of you, hearing songs that remind them of your voice, scrolling through old photos in the middle of the night. It's not that they suddenly realized your worth, it's that they finally ran out of distractions strong enough to replace your energy. The silence you mastered has become their new noise. But here's the truth, folks. When they come back, and they will, it won't be because you punished them. It'll be because you evolved beyond them. They'll feel the shift before they even see you. The version of you that once waited is gone, replaced by someone grounded, focused, untouchable. You've turned your pain into power, your waiting into wisdom, and that energy doesn't chase, it attracts. That's when they return, not out of love at first, but out of confusion. They'll wonder, how did I lose someone who loved me so deeply, and why do they look freer without me? When that moment comes, don't rush to open the door. Remember, peace is your new currency, and you've earned every bit of it. Their return isn't validation, it's confirmation that your growth was real. The universe doesn't bring people back to feed your ego. It brings them back to show you the difference between who you were and who you've become. So when they circle back, let them witness your evolution. Let them see the calm they couldn't give you, the confidence they once mistook for weakness. You don't need to say, "I told you so." Your energy already says it for you. You are no longer chasing closure. You are the closure. Now take a deep breath and write this in the comments so it settles into your soul. I've outgrown their absence. Because you have, my friends. You've turned silence into strength and peace into power. And if that truth resonated tonight, press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because your comeback isn't loud, it's legendary.